The Mulberry Tree Group presents Girls Aloud, your resource to women behind the scenes in media and the arts. Follow along on the journeys they took to succeed in a world where doors were seldom open to them. This is your visual card catalog of women who pursued their goals and dreams behind the scenes and didn't take no for an answer.
I went to Mount Holyoke College. It's a women's college in Massachusetts, and it's a 5-college dance program. I was a double major in dance and sociology. So what was so great about it is that you had 5 times the performing opportunities and then 5 times the backstage opportunities. I was very involved in the dance department. I loved to perform, but it was not the career path that I wanted. I didn't really know what I wanted when I was in school, but I knew that I wasn't working towards a professional dance career. So I was more than happy to work backstage if I wasn't cast in something. I never looked at it as this is my fallback because I wasn't good enough to be on stage. I actually really enjoyed, in the beginning, 50-50 of on-stage, off-stage time, and I think as my 4 years progressed, I realized that I really was much more fulfilled and comfortable being backstage. When I graduated Mount Holyoke, I had had enough experience stage managing and being backstage that I was prolific in that level, but there was more to learn. What was so interesting to me when I look back now is that I honestly never clicked that that was a professional job. And when it came time to graduate, there were 5 of us that were really close, and everyone was either going to grad school or had a job, and I had nothing. I was lost. And so I went into the dance department lounge one day, and there was a poster for Jacob's Pillow, which is the oldest dance festival in America, and they have an internship program. I took a chance and I called, and I spoke to the director of the program at the time, David Chapman, and he said, you know, you're super in luck because we had somebody drop out recently. We do have a spot. So I sent him my resume, and we chatted, and they took me. Like I had been led to believe on the poster, we were able to do professional jobs. So Bill T. Jones came in, and I was their light board operator. Elizabeth Streb came in, I was the sound engineer. Eiko and Como came in, I was the assistant stage manager. Every single job you could have in a professional touring dance company the opportunity was given to you to do those jobs. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea what it meant to be a company manager. I had an idea what it meant to be an assistant stage manager, but every company's different. So I really had to learn everything. A lot of it was trial by fire. It was making mistakes. It was recovering from them. It was asking for help. It was learning on the job all the time. The second month of my career with Parsons, we were on tour with a live band. Then a few months later, we were on a 5-city tour of South America. And so I'm doing backstage work, but I'm also the company manager. So I'm booking flights, and I'm booking hotels, and I'm doing things. I'm 21 years old. And I was probably the youngest company manager at the time that I can think of, because I knew a bunch of them. And it was crazy, but David had a lot of faith in me. I've always tended to project a little bit older than I am. I didn't have the gray hair then, but I am tall, and I do have a loud voice, and so there was that going for me. And I learned to fake it really well, and just, learn and be bold. Parsons was my family. We were all very intimate, very close, and I did love that, but I wasn't feeling like I was progressing professionally at all. We were on tour. We show up in Atlanta, and we had 2 nights of bookings. And the presenter calls me the morning of the first night for us and says, I'm so sorry, but we need to cancel tonight. We're gonna move tonight's tickets to tomorrow night. We just haven't sold enough to justify a performance for tonight. And they had sold like less than 100 tickets or something like that. And I said, well, what happened? Was it marketing? Was it this? No. Ailey's in town. So being the bold young woman that I am, I called up the then company manager of Ailey, Christopher Zunner, and I said, hi, you don't know me, but we're out of work tonight and we'd love to come see your performance. On the way into the theater, I bumped into someone that I had met at the Pillow who was the professional light board operator for Bill T. Jones. And he was like, well, if you could make the move, would you? And I said, well, there have been times recently where I've been thinking maybe it would be good to move to a different scene within the dance world. And he said, well, our stage manager is pregnant and she's retiring. Our assistant stage manager is moving up and they haven't posted it yet, but we are going to be looking for an ASM. So I applied for the job and I interviewed. Again, I had 2 interviews, one on the phone and then I had one in person. I took the train down to DC at the tail end of Ailey's tour. What was so attractive artistically for me is that it's Mr. Ailey's company, but it's a repertory company. So my stage management in terms of calling ballets was opening up to a flood of different choreographers and lighting designers. We have hundreds of ballets in our repertory. So I was constantly going to be able to challenge myself. It was sort of a who's who of dance lighting and dance choreography. Everyone who I'd studied in college was now across the table from me. So I was the assistant stage manager for 4 years, and then I was promoted to stage manager when Alvin decided to come off the road. And a few years ago, I think it was about three and a half years ago, I gained the title of production stage manager. I was hired in a cultural institution of America, and Mr. Ailey was such an important person in the African American community, in the dance community. So I remember the first month or so, I would go in on the weekends and I would watch videotapes. I watched the PBS special Going Home, which was of his funeral at St. John the Divine. 5,000 people showed up, spilling out onto the street. Ms. Jamison spoke, Carmen de Lavalade spoke, so many things, and it really, from the moment that I was taken into this community, I wanted to be a part of it. And maybe that was me doing above and beyond because I am in this company a minority. We're not a black company. We are not an African American company. Mr. Ailey was very clear about that. He wanted to see on stage the world that he lived in, and the world he lived in was multicultural and multiracial, which is what we are. Like many communities of work, there is always sort of the glass ceiling that you have to deal with in terms of breaking out to the next level. What's so interesting about the dance world, and I'm talking about stage management, backstage work, is that most of the professional stage managers out there are female. But most of the stage managers that are recognized are male. And when you're working backstage, female stage managers, even though we represent and have sort of the hold on those jobs, we have to fight still to get people to work with us and recognize us. You can walk in and, the stagehands who are generally older than you and have been in the business so much longer, because once you get your union card, especially here like in Local 1, you're in it for life. There's so much politics of getting people to listen to you, to respect you, because you are someone of authority, you are someone who is, as a stage manager, giving direction, and they don't necessarily want to hear that from a young woman who, is directing them and giving them, instruction on a job that they feel they already know. So you have to ride the line. Do you go overboard with the authoritative and then you're perceived as a bitch? Do you play the game of being sweet and nice and then you're open to advances that aren't welcome, that maybe when they get too far and you say something, well, it's put back on you. Well, you walked in and you gave me the hug and you did this and that. And I did have to report someone early in my career. It was unfortunate. Be bold. Ask the question, what's the worst they can say? No. That is so key. If I had not made that phone call to Jacob's Pillow, if I was not bold enough to say, well, maybe they'll make another spot for me, or maybe some miracle will happen. If I wasn't bold and confident and picked up that phone, I never would have had this career, because that was the start of everything professional for me. The other thing that I always say is, it's not about the failures that we have or make or that happen. It's about how you recover. There are so many things that happen in a performance that only 1% of the audience, and sometimes not that many people backstage, realize happen. And that's because of how we conduct ourselves when we recover, how we make those things work, so that we take the failure and we make it not a failure in how we recover. So it's so important that whatever you're doing, you just learn to keep going. So you may have failure, but it's how you recover. Hopefully you recover as a team. Hopefully that you are supported, and hopefully that you recover with a larger success than maybe you would have if it was just a plain vanilla day and everything was smooth, and that there's a lesson to be learned. So be bold and learn how to take a failure and recognize that the more important thing about it is how you recover.